Welcome to lesson 15, the world, current of Tav, center of the cube of space in the Alchemical Cabala. The center of the cube is the 21st tarot key of the world, the letter Tav, which means cross or an X, as in X marks the spot. This is the point where one makes their mark upon the world. So before we get too far into this, just take a few deep breaths and find the center of your being and just rest in that point. The deepest, innermost point you feel drawn to within yourself. I want you to imagine if the world depended on you finding this center within yourself right now. Go in that direction. Within. Simply let yourself rest in that center that is. You don't have to create the center. It's already been created. It's all you have ever known as yourself within you. Go within to that point within yourself. It might help to feel the center of your abdomen as you push it out with a deep breath. Inhaling deeply as the life force fills you from you and is you. Imagine the center like a sun shining brilliantly within the mind of the all, within you, which has always existed and is always centered within. Let that light shine with ever greater brightness and love in all directions. You are safe and secure in this light of the core of your being. So as we go through this lesson, I just want you to keep a portion of your consciousness and awareness resting in the center of this beingness of your own center. And as you work with this key throughout this week, now imagine from this core of your being, this light extends eternally straight upwards and eternally equally straight downwards. It extends eternally straight to the east before you and eternally to the west straight behind you. It extends from your core eternally straight to the north to your left and eternally to the right of you, straight in the south. And you are always naturally, perfectly centered within this cross of Tav. This pure, whole, and real core center that is your natural state of poise, balance, and being. It's where you naturally go. If you had to go as your last resort for assistance from within, just feel that, where that is within you. In truth, it is your last resort, even as Tav is the last Hebrew letter of the Aleph Beit. But every ending is only a new beginning forever and ever and ever. So there are two primary aspects to every form of being in the world of forms. The aspect of expansion, which is the function of Jupiter, and the aspect of contraction, or the limiting function of Saturn. That is the aspect of the letter Tav in this key, which is absolutely necessary for us to have form. Saturn is that which limits the limitless, without which we would only have eternal limitlessness. And even that would be unknowable without the perception and perceived experience of limitation. Without Saturn, there would be no world as we know it. So note the 21st tarot key is named the world. The letter Tav again means cross or mark. So let's look at the cube of space unfolded. Then Jesus told his disciples, "If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whosoever loses his life for my sake will find it." Matthew 24:25. We know the cube of space is one diagram or a map of inner consciousness. It's also a symbol of the body of manifestation itself. If we unfold the cube of space, we see this, a cross. So would each person just gently, as you will, just make one observation statement of what you see on the cross unfolded here? Just, there are no wrong answers, just what you see that occurs to you.
The Empress is at top and she's pregnant and she's kind of the beginning of all people, I guess.
Yes, at the crown, right?
Mhm.
She has a crown of 12 stars.
It goes from the bottom, darkness, world, magician, and then to the highest of, yeah, the
Illuminating intelligence of light.
thank you.
Yes, yes, the Empress, which is love, the crown of love.
And then the two cards on the right and left are kind of like limitless substance and justice, but not. You know, they're just mercy and
You're on the right track.
that. The
Yes,
other.
mercy and severity. That is right. And they're balanced, right?
Mhm.
That's the mercy is on our left and the severity and strengths on our right. And this is, remember, each key is one of the inner wheels in the Western tradition. Just remember that in your studies. You'll get more to it in the future. Any other observations?
The magician is at the center.
Yes. Thank you. Great. I was thinking the exact same thing. I was like, and its core essence is simply attention, right?
Mhm.
If we could just pay attention.
And focus.
Yes, and focus.
We create what we pay attention to.
Yes, we give it life, don't we? And down here at the bottom, exiting, I'm reminded of Mary at the foot of the cross. And we see the high priestess here. And from her scroll is flowing forth all the forms that come into manifestation.
I find it interesting that there's the golden guy at the very top, and at the very bottom on the high priestess, there's that yellow showing through also
Right here.
across
Yeah,
from
that she,
the,
uh-huh. Right.
so there's that connection, that like a cyclic effect maybe, or I don't know.
Yeah. And the high priestess on the tree of life itself is the highest central path that connects the heart, the sun of Tiferet, to the crown above, the divine self on the simple tree. So this is something that you can take and meditate on in your own time. It's worth your time. 2, 3, 4, 5. These are 6 of the 7 inner wheels, and the 7th is the root chakra, which is Tav, the key we're working with. All right. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. John 16:33. And here's the world key. Saturn is that aspect that brings us to discipline ourselves to make progress and grow. Few people like or enjoy self-discipline because it feels restrictive and it's often perceived as difficult because it's restrictive and it's often difficult. But the key is that once we accept that our true freedom lies in creation, our true freedom lies in balancing restriction within ourselves, not our childlike imaginings of what freedom is, but real self-discipline. Remember, this is self-discipline. It is our self disciplining our personality. Most often, it's our animal drives and instincts and desires. Simply meaning that the restrictions are to assist us to be more true to ourselves. If you feel guided from yourself to give something up, this is a good time in the Western world. We're in the time of Lent. If you feel led to only from yourself within, I encourage you to do so. And we just left the key of temperance, which is trial and error. So if you feel led to do this, do it. Get your guidance from within, what it is you would like to restrict or discipline for yourself. And do it for the duration of Lent and see what happens. It's how we learn for ourselves what works and what doesn't. If you do this, please keep it to yourself. Whatever it is that you choose to not participate in or to say no to or to restrict yourself from for the 40 days, just keep it to yourself. Put it in your journal. And only if you feel led from your inner self to do so. No worries. These restrictions can take any form from learning to concentrate, to fasting from foods or activities or habits of speech, etc., to learning to focus our mind and activities in any manner that requires our focused practice. So why do we do this? We do this to strengthen our connection to our real self. This is why. It becomes easier to be more ourselves when we do these things. It's upside down and backwards from the way we normally think, right? There's nothing wrong with eating, drinking, etc. You know, the general rule of thumb is all things in moderation. But we always want to be moving in a direction that the higher spirit within us is guiding us and our actions. A cooperation with the Holy One within ourselves. So again, I'm stressing this is very important. Make this aim from within yourself, from yourself. Listen to yourself within, and then keep it to yourself. If we find that our motivations are, say, to impress or please someone, just make note of that, right? Just make a note of it. It's not uncommon. You can make a list of any of the long list of things an ego might do X, Y, or Z for. Just make a note of it. And then listen more intently from a deeper place, that place that you're staying in touch with. and listen for your guidance. If you get guidance to do something, then act on that. Okay? This is all Kabbalah is asking us to do, is to be true to ourselves. That's all it is asking of us, to be ourselves, not someone else's idea of who we are or what we should be. There are plenty of people in the world more than happy to tell us how we should or shouldn't be. It takes a lot of courage, right? And strength and resolve and grace. Thank God for grace, for us to be ourselves. To thine own self be true. Just making that intention to be true to our real self sets that in motion. And this key will help us get in touch with that spirit. This key will assist us in doing just that. So now then, I have something kind of cool, kind of special for you. This is a teaching you may have heard, you may have not, but if not, you may want to write this one down. Here it is. The teaching is this. If you wish to see the truth of any situation, in your mind, look at it upside down and backwards. And we're talking about situations or truths in the world, this world. Simply turn the situation upside down and backwards. That is how the truth in this world is. It is upside down and backwards. So we're going to just look at the inverse of the 21st tarot key, which happens to be 12. And we're going to read this formula from the Book of Wisdom. So please, just one at a time, whatever occurs to you, unmute yourself and share what you see. And the inversion of 21 is 12 below the world, the suspended man and the world.
The leg formations are like the one legs are pointing toward each other, but they're opposite of each other. So there's like a connection there.
Perfect. Yeah. So the left leg is behind the right leg in both figures, correct?
Yes.
And they're both encircled or enclosed.
Yes. Does anyone recognize the figure that this enclosure is?
Isn't it?
Yes, it is the letter Tav of the world right here. The cross.
Mhm.
The facial expression on the hanged man is he looks very awake and shining light and conscious, even though to our appearance he's upside down.
Yes. He looks completely poised and balanced.
Completely self-remembering, poised and balanced.
Yes. Not a worry in the world.
And very awake and very content.
And his
Yes.
hair is white.
And what?
His hair is white and it's going down into the earth.
Yes. Yes.
But
Their
the
leg,
rope is also white too. I love that the rope is white that's hanging him.
Uh-huh. The rope reminds me of an umbilical cord.
Uh-huh.
Completely trusting.
the legs are in the number 4.
Mhm.
Huh? Right? Which is what on the tree of life?
I was thinking earth, water, fire, and that.
Okay, that's fine. There's 4 elements. What's the 4th sphere on the tree of life?
Mercy.
Thank you. It's mercy. And the simple interpretation is memory.
Right.
right? Okay, good.
So you remember.
Yes.
Our big thing is to remember who we are.
Yes. That's yes.
Oh, I
We
see something else.
uh-huh.
He's holding the DNAs in his hands, but then on the bottom, the moons on each side.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a connection.
Okay.
The
You
quest.
notice, yeah.
Yeah. In this key, the hands are behind the back. They're not doing anything. This is the key. Pardon me? Go ahead.
No, but his hands are behind his back because he doesn't use his hands.
That's right.
All is mind.
That's right. Thank you. All is mind. And as a reminder, the word man, or suspended man, comes from the Hindu root word manas, which means mind. The real interpretation of this key is suspended mind.
Wow.
Suspended man is enclosed in the wood,
And
where the other guy's enclosed in the green.
yes, right. Beautiful green.
Love.
So there are 11 wreathlets on each side of the world dancer. That's a total of 22,
Mhm.
which is the total number of the major arcana in tarot,
Okay.
right? Okay, I have to move forward. We could spend a long time on this, but you keep that for yourself. Anytime you want to see the truth of something, remember, contemplate it in this manner, upside down and backwards. That teaching came from a very, very wise soul. All right. So, and just as a side note, just for your own interesting, these two letters together, Tav and Mem, in Hebrew, they form the word tam or tome, which means wholeness, simplicity, sincerity, and perfection. All right. Share, go back over here for a second, just for a minute. Back to the world. The world dancer is floating in the air with a wreath of victory surrounding them. Each leaflet has 3 leaves. These are the 22 major trumps in tarot, all of their powers, forming a wreath of victory around the world dancer. Again, there are 11 on each side, and we see the luminescent, the figure 8, binding the above and the below, connecting them all together. We see the letter Kaf, which means grasping hand, and is associated with Jupiter. And remember the Wheel of Fortune as the third dimensional world, or the western face of the cube of space. This is the only garment seen on the world dancer. See? The genitals are covered on the final key of the major arcana. Ponder, really wonder on that this week as you meditate on this. The top of the letter, Kaf, rests on the left shoulder of the dancer, which we know as mercy, love. And it comes back around the right corner to the sphere of action, right? The right, and the tip of Kaf reaches up to understanding, Bina, which we know is at the right temple. And we know these characters are us. So that's interesting. Also recall that the shoulders cross here, mercy and severity, on the simple tree is the higher mental plane. So this key shows us the state sometimes called cosmic consciousness. which we experience when we've united our inner masculine and feminine aspects within ourselves. This then opens us to the inner space of our being. When we have been successful in this through our meditative practices and our core practice each night, eventually we are elevated to a new state of consciousness, one closer to our state before the apparent fall of consciousness from our masculine and feminine aspects into the third dimensional world of form. The world dancer holds the spiritual light wands of power. They're illuminating the space within the oval, remember, is the Vesica Pisces, which is the tattva or symbol of spirit. These spirals are filled with light, life, and they are filling the whole interior of this oval. In one hand is the spiral of involution, of light coming into form and matter. And the other hand is the spiral of evolution, of form evolving back into light. The world dancer holds these in perfect balance, the keys of involution and evolution. And they resemble the spiral helix forms of the DNA. If you look down the center of a spiral, you just see a circle. And if you just sway just so slightly, you can see it's actually a spiral. And so this is why we find ourselves returning to the same places or situations in life along our path, but we're always different when we arrive at the same point. It's like when we come up, we come to the same place, but we're an arc higher now on the spiral of life. Note these points in your life. They stand out. Just know you always come to a similar point, but you're always at a higher arc. The world dancer is perfectly balanced between the four fixed signs of the zodiac. On the key, we see them as Leo here, up here is Aquarius, and then Scorpio, and then down here is Taurus. So it's fire, air, water, earth. And see how it makes a big X? X marks a spot, the center of the world dancer. Okay. So, one interesting thing on this key is the bull faces away from Leo in this key, facing this way to the left. In the world key, the bull faces Leo, and the cycle is just like on an endless loop of repetition. That's the endless cycle of samsara, or Maya, or identifying and believing everything we see is all there is. That's the Western face of the cube. But this is the center. This is where we know there's always more than what we see. This is the end of and the beginning of a new cycle of creation. This shows there is a new creation emerging, and this new creation is us. Kav as the cross is the end of the Hebrew Aleph Bet, but remember, every end is a new beginning. This key is our beginning to come within ourselves. This is why we self-initiate into the tree of life using this key, Kav, that we may enter more fully into the mysteries within ourself. I have come that they may have life and have it more abundantly. John 10:10. Now, here, to illustrate this point, this is the letter Tav spelled in its entirety. Remember, Tav is the last letter of the Hebrew Aleph Bet. This is it spelled out in the Book of Wisdom. So, the letter Tav spelled out fully, we see the world, the cross, And then we see it connected to the Hebrew letter Vav, which is the conjunction and. So wherever you are in life, every end is and. There is always more, which the world teacher is showing us. The world teacher of Tav, showing us with this symbol here that not all is revealed. There's always more. There's always more. There is always more. The more we're able to identify with our true self, which is your light within you, the light life within you, within us, the more we will see those changes reflected in the world that appears outside of us. In the world key, we begin to realize that real change of the outer is always initiated from real changes within. This is simply as it is. So in the Western tradition, we learn to work on the inner planes. We make our changes within ourself from the inside out. This is the only way to make real, lasting change. Okay. Now this shows all 7 keys. The center and the 6 faces. Because Tav is the center of the cube of space, it has direct access to every direction on the cube of space. See how this extreme limitation within is giving us more freedom and access. Tav is called the administrating intelligence. And from the Book of Formation, it says, the 32nd path is the administrative intelligence. And it is so called because it directs and associates in all their operations the 7 planets, even all of them in their own due courses. Now recall here, the planets are referring to the 7 interior stars, which are all shown on the cube of space. Tav on the tree of life connects the 3rd dimensional world, which is your physical body, to the sphere of the moon on the tree of life, the astral plane and vital soul, your vital soul. It's the first path that we enter the tree of life by. Recall the moon or Yesod is called the foundation on the tree of life, just as the high priestess is the foundation of the cube of space. And if you will recall, when we unfolded the cube of space, she is also the foundation of the cross. So what does this mean? The high priestess is the prima materia of alchemy, the first matter, the virgin substance of everything that ever was, all that is now, and everything that ever shall be. This first matter might be thought of as primal astral light within which we all live, move, and have our being, the substance and the matrix of living intelligence from which all forms are made. As we evolve consciously, our consciousness is freed from identifying with only one assemblage of forms that we know of as our own physical body, seen on the tree of life as the sphere of Malkut. And we become more self-conscious in our more subtle or inner, finer bodies. So in short, we begin to wake up on the inner planes where we exist even now. These keys and the Book of Wisdom are simply those keys that assist us in that very awakening. The gift and the blessing here is we get to participate consciously as the co-creators that we are. This is the part of the path of waking up, and this is the process that we experience on the spiritual path. Recall that the world dancer's legs were crossed and their arms are in the shape of like a triangle, right? Show that again. Where's she go? Here we are. See the triangle here above the cross? This is a symbol of sulfur in alchemy. Spiritual fire. From the emerald tablet, thou shalt separate the earth from the fire, the subtle from the gross, suavely and with great ingenuity. So, as you proceed in your work in Kabbalah and the Book of Wisdom, don't be surprised when you find yourself waking up more and more on the inner planes. As you work more and more with this system, don't be surprised. Do be prepared. Memorizing the pattern on the trestle board is one of the most helpful things you can do for yourself in this study and work of the Western mystery tradition. If you have not made this part of your practice, please memorize the pattern on the trestle board this week and make reciting it to yourself a daily habit, either on waking or retiring, or do both. And consider resolving to do this for, say, 40 days, if you feel guided within to do so, and see what occurs for you. There are some people that will, on waking, they'll state the pattern of the trestle board and see the visualization from the crown to the feet. And as they go to bed at night, they'll start at the bottom of the tree and work backwards. And they'll state this 10th statement and work their way back up to the crown. That's a really beautiful practice if that speaks to you. This concludes lesson 15 of the Alchemical Cabala, Tav, the cross, and the cube of space. I am so very, very grateful for all of you. Thank you for your participation, and the floor is open for any questions or comments.